Buongiorno a tutti. Se vi sedete, per favore.
Good morning, good day to all of you. Kindly be seated.
Bene, benvenuti a tutti.
Welcome to you all, young, less young, all of you.
Autorità.
Welcome to the authorities.
Questa è la
And this is the 13th
della conferenza Future of Science.
edition of the conference, The Future of Science. And I'm very happy that we have gone so far and we have reached this 13th edition. It's a very important appointment because a lot has happened over the last 13 years. Science has really made huge advances and has progressed a lot. And as we have told you in all our conferences, now we have the availability of knowledge which has improved our life quality. As we are about to see, we have been telling you what science has been achieving in many different fields, in all fields. This conference, this appointment, this year is marking the absence of Umberto Veronesi, who passed away in November 2016, 10 months ago. Umberto Veronesi himself has conceived this project and has also been the passionate president of these conferences. And the topic we are about to discuss, which is extremely fascinating and interesting, and I hope for you as much as for us, this topic, this theme, has once again been chosen by Umberto Veronesi himself to try and look ahead and trying to imagine the world that we will be living in 20 or 30 years from now, especially as far as the connection between life, medicine, and life and health is concerned. This conference is dedicated to Professor Veronesi, to his teachings, and we are aware of the inheritance we have and he has left to us, and we are going to work in the wake of what he has taught us, and we will continue to work for him and as he has taught us.
Questa sera,
this evening, after the contributions of the presidents of the three foundations and the contribution of Mrs. Kathleen Kennedy, the presidents of the foundations that have organized the conferences over the last 13 years, after this, we're going to continue to remember Professor Veronesi through the voices of three people who have shared his life or shared with him a lot of his experiences. First of all, Professor Gianni Letta will take the floor. He's not either a researcher or a doctor, but he has supported the Umberto Veronesi Foundation and Professor Veronesi over the years. Professor Letta has been a close friend for all of us, and we really thank him from the deep of our hearts. Then we will cover the clinical and scientific achievements of Professor Veronesi, thanks to Professor Apollone and Professor Anpolici, whom we thank wholeheartedly. At this point, before leaving the floor to Professor Bazzoli, who is the president of the Cini Foundation, allow me to close on a personal note by remembering Professor Veronesi on a personal note, therefore. Umberto Veronesi has been a great doctor. He was a great doctor, an intellectual, an innovator, and a strong defender of civil rights, a man of peace, a great communicator, and he was great at defending science and the scientific methodology. We miss him really a lot. He was a surgeon who made difficult choices when it was not easy to make those choices. He changed the way in which people and patients were treated. He changed the surgery, and he adopted personalized treatments. He was always at the forefront for any philosophical and medical issues. He indicated the scientific methodologies as the way ahead, and he left an extraordinary inheritance. Professor Veronesi always started from the individual, from the relationship between the doctor and the patient. He repeated quite often that the role of a doctor, of a physician, is not that of treating an organ, but rather the host, a human being made up of mind and body, a human being with his or her personality, with his knowledge and his expectations, his frustrations and future. Because wounds are not the wounds of the body only. And he also said that scientific knowledge has to be preserved together with certain virtues which will be of great help. First of all, listening, because the first support a doctor can give to a patient is that of listening to try and understand what the situation is, to share a possible treatment. Wiseness made up of patience and equity, because discrimination cannot be justified either. Patience, confidence, and trust to develop a profitable relationship from the medical point of view and from the human point of view. He often repeated that if you hurry to go to a meeting and you meet patients who wants to talk to you, stop there and listen to your patient. You may be late to the meeting, but you're going to have a patient grateful to you forever. To be a doctor, you have to love people, to love human being. I do remember that once we were here in Venice and we went together to the film festival. And when Professor Veronesi walked on the so-called red carpet, a round of applause started, and it was so strong that no star had a similar one. Everybody was saying, continue, do what you have been doing up to now, and do continue to do so, because he has always Professor Veronesi always followed the theory of self-determination of people and the three principles based on solidarity and brotherhood and tolerance. These are the three beacons who led him, his lights. And he walked in these lights. And that is why in the Veronesi Foundation, both scientific research and dialogue on the inequalities, conflicts, sustainability, environment, and bioethics were considered to be on an equal footing, because he was well aware that scientists and doctors will have to be able to deal with new grounds. He paved the way for all of us. We're going to miss him, his intuitions, his braveness, his optimism, his brave attitude, but also his irony. But I'm quite sure that the path he has marked will continue to bear fruits and ideas following his teachings. Thank you very much.
Siamo qua.
I would like to join in my greetings and I wish to welcome you all with two short comments. First, let me refer to the relationship between culture and science. I wish to highlight that the venue where this conference is being held is ideal in a certain perspective, as the relationship between scientific culture and culture at large is, if I may say so, a distinctive tract of the cultural policy of this foundation ever since Branca was leading the Cini Foundation. Now, I don't want to go back to the past history of this island, but let me just say that the modern astronomy charter was drafted in this very Benedictine monastery. In 1464, a scientist, Giovanni Regiomontano, who had a chair at the Padua University, was a friend of Bressarione, the cardinal. Well, in 1463, laid down the very basis of the astronomical revolution by Copernicus. I'm stating as much just to refer to the glorious historical foundations of this institution. St. George's Island has ever been a very important place when it comes to scientific culture. This explains all the initiatives that the foundation is carrying out to date. There's something which is very close to my heart, and I'd like to remind you all of. One of the initiatives that we are carrying out is a major project, the digital enhancement of the artistic heritage of the documents held by the Cini Foundation. The name of this project is very telling, Replicae. And this has been carried out jointly with the École Polytechnique of Lausanne. Just think that we have a collection of photographs of the monuments here at the Cini, which is the most important heritage when it comes to images that are devoted to the history of art, history of architecture, ever existing in the world. So the fact of the Cini Foundation being involved in this initiative is quite clear, because, again, the past history of this island shows a strong vocation for the dissemination of scientific culture. The Cini Foundation has shown an ongoing desire to follow along the lines of its culture. The Cini Foundation has always been an important focus for research when it comes again to scientific culture. When Professor Veronesi asked us to host the proceedings of the conference, and not only that, but also to jointly sponsor, together with also Fondazione Silvio Borghetti Povera, this initiative, well, I accepted his offer immediately. I talked about this to the Cardinal Scola, the then Bishop of Venice. And why is that? Well, because he holds the office of the founder. When Cini, as the founder of the Cini Foundation, died, he left all his power to the Bishop of Venice. All the bishops of Venice have indeed followed the independence and the lay nature of this foundation. And I'm underlining this also to show that modern-day school is very open also when it comes to disseminating scientific culture. There's another comment that I'd like to make and to share with you. As Chiara said earlier on, this is the first time we meet here at the Future of Science conference when Professor Veronesi has left us. And I think that we should highlight the important role he played. So I join in whatever Chiara has said in recalling his presence and his figure. But there's one little thing that I'd like to add. Professor Veronesi has been an extremely charming gentleman. So we long for his friendship, but we feel greatly bereaved by the loss of his friendship. But there is one trait in his character, in Umberto's character, that I wish again to recall before you all, and that is his vision. Umberto was farsighted and extremely optimistic. At times, his optimism seemed irrational, but that succeeded in animating many projects. Future of Science is one of his visionary, far-sighted, and optimistic projects. And this is the little comment I meant to add to what Chiara just said when recalling Professor Veronesi. He was strongly focused on scientific dissemination. I think that this is perhaps the most important thing we can say when reference to Professor Veronesi. Science can establish some kind of dialogue with politics, philosophy, economics even, and share with all these other disciplines the reasons of a process. But let me stop here. Let me just say that for all these reasons, the Cini Foundation here in Venice on St. George's Island has not just only been the venue for these conferences, but has always been a promoter. And after 13 years, the Giorgio Cini Foundation is still wholly persuaded about the goodness of this project. And I'm now talking on behalf of the Cini Foundation. We're looking forward to see more editions of this conference. So this is going to be the sign of our will and to take up on the baton that Professor Veronesi has left with us. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome. On behalf of the Silvio Tronchetti Provera Foundation and on behalf of myself, on behalf of my father, who unfortunately could not join us here, and he regrets not having been able to be here because, as we have seen, this is a rather special edition of the Future of Science. The three speeches which will follow this initial session are deeply connected to the inheritance we enjoyed from Professor Tronchetti Veronesi with the Future of Science. I subscribe to what has been said by the two previous speakers about Professor Veronesi, but I would like to add that he has also been a close and dear friend for my family and for my father. This is why my father regrets it even more, not to have been able to come here. The Future of Science aims at developing the dialogue and increasing and enhancing the dialogue between science and the society. Professor Veronesi used to say that the enhancement of science and the dissemination of science are achieved in the interest of us all, and the future of science is deeply connected with our own future. The Silvio Tronchetti Provera Foundation has been working in this field since 2001. We have been working on these aspects, and we have been working with universities and with the high schools and international schools in the world. On the one hand, we support research activities in the automotive, infomobility sectors. We support research on new materials and on future trends. But on the other hand, we also work and together and conceive other initiatives addressing young people with a view to offering them the tools which are required to make choices for their future on a knowledge base. I would like to thank you all for being here, and I would like to thank the speakers who are going to take the floor today and tomorrow. Thank you to you all.
Eccomi, buonasera a tutti.
Good evening to you all, and thank you for being here tonight. So in large numbers, you are really dear friends, and I've seen friends who have not even missed one of these 13 editions. And thank you very much for being so passionate and so. And we are here for a very special edition because it's the first one without our father, my father, sorry. And thank you for being here this time too. And these conferences are really very much participated. Together with the main title, you can see that we also added for the progress of science. How can we support and cultivate this progress with the two different souls overlapping in our foundation? First of all, the support to research, which is at the very heart, because science cannot progress without research. And over the years, we have financed an increasing number of grants for young people. This year, we have financed 200 grants in Italy and abroad to enable young researchers to work in Italy and abroad. This is as important as the fact that the results achieved by research should be disseminated to all. And this is the other soul, and this is why our foundation was set up. And the main aim is the dissemination of science. And this is the idea conceived by my father 15 years ago when he conceived and gave life to this foundation. More than ever, we have to provide more information and give more knowledge to our society. We have many examples under our eyes. For example, the problem of vaccines, with the diffidence, unjustified diffidence towards this extraordinary means of prevention, which is deeply rooted in the lack of scientific knowledge, and in the disinformation or fake news is another aspect. Where fake news we can find on the web, which may have little importance, but they can also become very important and dangerous and harmful when we deal with our health. And in many cases, we have examples of people who died because they followed non-evidence-based scientific knowledge. That is why this cycle of conferences was conceived 15 years ago. The conference has the aim of setting the science at the very center of the cultural and science dialogue, to make this society take part in the scientific progress and in making it able to understand what is the impact that scientific progress has on the society itself. This is a place where scientific representatives can meet with the students and the researchers and young people who want to open a dialogue with the important representatives of the scientific world. And it's not by chance that so many young people are present here today. We need young people for the working of our foundation and our activities, because we address young people to disseminate knowledge to them so that they can be able to make decisions based on the rational knowledge. and not on fear. In the past, we discussed different issues. In one of the first editions many years ago, we spoke about a DNA revolution and personalized medicine. And we were right, because this is what medicine is doing. Medicine is choosing the best treatment on the basis of the genome analysis, especially as far as cancer treatment is concerned. And on top of that, genetics will become more and more important, even in the field of prevention, because by summing up knowledge on genetics, on the genome of people, we will provide more customized and personalized treatments for all. Then we also discussed nanoscience to speak about the strategic role that they have in improving the quality of life and in organizing daily life, thanks to the achievements made in the technologies of materials, biotechnology, and biomedicine. Then last year we discussed the digital revolution. Some calculated, some said that every 2 years our world produces a quantity of data equal to what had been produced from the initial of the revolution, the technological revolution, to the previous day. Now we have big data. We have such a volume of data which will enable us to revolutionize our lives. Today, medicine can benefit from this huge quantity of data which are generated. In the past, doctors had to base their treatments on their personal experiences, but now they can have big data available, and doctors can really compare their case, the case they are treating, with millions of other cases in the world to understand which is the best treatment for each single individual, for each single case. And prescribing the best treatment becomes easier. Now we are at the 13th edition, and we wanted to draw a line to sum up what had been discussed up to now in the previous editions. That is why we chose not to focus on one specific issue, but rather to look ahead, to look to our future, or into our future, to try and understand what life is going to be in 20 or 30 years' time. Of course, it is not possible to cover all the aspects in 1.5 day, but we will try to focus on one of the most important aspects, such as, for example, the challenges set by nutrition, by food, which is all the more important in terms of prevention, because we know today that certain kinds of food may protect us, may be harmful. We know what we should be eating, what we should eat, but then we also have the problem of sustainability. The world population is growing. 11% of the world population is undernourished today. The shortage of food and water is at the source of most of the conflicts which generate thousands of victims. This is the challenge we have to raise up to, and science can provide specific answers, not just by allocating funds for those in need, but we can really work with science to try and develop specific solutions and applicable solutions to the problem. Then we have another challenge, the challenge of personalized medicine. We should be able to read the big data and the data and the information which is written in our DNA. We also have to develop medicine focusing on the immunitary system. By doing that, we can really succeed in curing certain cancers which could not be cured before. And then again, food and sustainability. Again, drugs, especially anti-cancer drugs, are very, very expensive, and the costs are increasing. And our health system will not be able to sustain these costs at a certain point. That is why we have to find viable scientific solutions. This is what we are going to discuss here today and tomorrow. This is an opportunity to look into the future that we are already building today. Thank you very much to all of you for being here, and I wish you all a very pleasant conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Paolo, that was beautiful. Well done. Catherine.
I'm going to repeat that, Paolo. That was great. Well done. Many of you come to remember Dr. Veronesi, but I just want to identify one very, very special person, Mrs. Veronesi, who was a partner to Dr. Veronesi. You raised a great family. You have terrific children, and you were a terrific partner with him in all his endeavors. Thank you so much for being here today and for all the days that you've been here. You really are great. It is a very special and very important time to celebrate Dr. Veronesi's vision and to carry on his legacy. He was determined that we should respect science, look at facts, value reason. He founded this conference to spread his vision to his beloved Italy, of course, but also across the world. And I hope desperately to the United States, where we need it right now. This conference is one way to fight those who think that lies, deception, falsehoods should be a political tactic and a governing strategy. When Dr. Veronesi was founding the future of science, a political television star in the United States, Stephen Colbert, came up with the word truthiness. Has anybody ever heard of that? Can the translators translate truthiness? Have you heard it now? Okay. Well, truthiness was a word that we have very common now in the United States, and it describes the process by which each person can come up with their own reality. Who knew? Stephen Colbert came up with that term because Karl Rove, who was the political guru to President George W. Bush, said this. Now listen carefully. He said that people in the reality-based community believe that solutions emerge from the judicial study of discernible reality. That's not the way the world works anymore, he explained. So Karl Rove and George Bush did not want to look at discernible reality. They did not want reality-based solutions, thus the word truthiness. There was a recent article in the United States that talked about how many people in our country actually believe in discernible reality. And I'm just going to go through some of the things we discovered about Americans. Bear with me, if you will. Patience, my friend. 2/3 of Americans believe that angels and demons are active in the world. 1/3 of us believe not only that global warming is no big deal, but that it is a hoax perpetuated by scientists, the government, and journalists. 1/3 believe that the government has, in league with the pharmaceutical industry, hidden evidence of natural cancer cures. A third also believe that extraterrestrials have visited or visiting the Earth today. A quarter believe that vaccines cause autism and that Donald Trump won the popular vote. A quarter, 25%, that's a quarter, I don't know how your translations are doing with my horrible facts, believe that the previous president, Barack Obama, is the Antichrist. 15% believe that the media or the government adds secret, mind-controlling technology to television broadcast signals, and another 15% think that's possible. Okay, you get our problem. While some of these beliefs may seem weird and strange, please recall that one of the greatest scientists, Sir Isaac Newton, who discovered the law of gravity, also spent his evening trying to turn straw into gold. So I'm telling you this because just because some beliefs are weird doesn't mean they're dangerous. But some beliefs are dangerous. That's the bad news. Let me tell you a few good things about our country. I know you've been waiting. First, when Donald Trump cut the budget for the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, the Republican Congress not only restored the funding, but increased it. Second, scientists and medical doctors are the second most trusted professions in the United States after the military. That deserves a round of applause. Third, the Republican Congress actually provided funding to the military after they asked for it to look at climate change as a matter of national security. So where does that leave us? While we have a president who is cutting money for science, who is making fun of climate change, who has odd ideas about vaccines, there is still some support for science in the United States of America. The question that this conference will help us answer is how can we build more trust in reason, in facts, in the value of truth? Over the next few days, we will hear about the value of science, the scientific method, how much we don't know, and what science can do. The two most important lessons that I think we can learn is first, how each of us can look at our own prejudices and see what we need to learn, and two, how can we reach those who have such dangerous theories? Dr. Veronese was an extraordinary visionary. He knew that sometimes we could be tempted to give up, that things were just too difficult, that it was easier just to focus on our narrow job and do that well, and let politics alone. But at the end of the day, Dr. Veronese never did give up. He stayed involved and engaged for every moment of his life. He knew that politics mattered, that it affects us all. And with that model, he clearly left us a challenge to keep our hearts and our heads involved, always. Thank you very much.
Grazie Kathleen. Ed ora è arrivato.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Now it is high time that we give the floor to the first speaker of the afternoon session. And as I said earlier on, now the task goes to Gianni Letta. You probably all know him. He's he's neither a researcher or a physician, but he has been working with the professor for many years, supporting his projects. He has been a very important friend, and we would like to thank him for being here today and for offering us the possibility of sharing with him what he's about to say. Thank you.